Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, brothers and sisters. It's Roshan Muhammed Salih here, the editor of Five Pillars, and I pray that you're all well on this stifling hot day, the hottest day of the year, unheard of temperatures here in the United Kingdom, and everyone's going crazy about it. But I wanted to talk about Sri Lanka today, brothers and sisters, because of course, it's something that's close to my heart, a country that's very close to my heart. I was born there. I spent the early years of my life there. I still have many family members over there. And we've all seen the horrendous situation, the crisis in Sri Lanka, which has been playing out in front of the eyes of the world's media over the last 100 days or so. The cost of living crisis, with people, the majority of the population just not having enough to eat, that has culminated in mass protests. We've seen protesters storm the presidential palace. The prime minister's residence, set it on fire. We've seen the president fleeing the country. And we've also seen Muslims as part of this protest movement. Now, I'll be honest, brothers and sisters, I've been so busy over the past kind of month or so that I haven't paid as close attention to the situation in Sri Lanka as I would have normally done. Apart from just, WhatsApp messages from cousins, etc., telling me what's going on, I haven't really been paying close attention to it. So for my own benefit today, I really wanted to talk to a Sri Lankan Muslim to find out what's going on in the country. And especially specifically relating to Muslims in Sri Lanka, who have had such a hard time of it since the end of the civil war back in 2009, I think it was, when the focus changed from, discriminating and targeting the Tamils to targeting the Muslims. The Muslims became scapegoats, and we saw riots and pogroms against Muslims. Of course, we saw this horrendous situation during the COVID pandemic where Muslims literally were being, dead Muslims, the Muslims who had died were being burned, were being cremated. They weren't allowed to be buried. Alhamdulillah, that situation has passed. But generally, we see this kind of right-wing Buddhist extremist atmosphere in Sri Lanka targeting Muslims, which is very different to the Sri Lanka that I grew up in, which had a relatively tolerant, multicultural feel to it. So without further ado, I'm going to play out an interview I did earlier today, very interesting interview with Sheikh Mohamed Ismail, who is originally from Kandy in the hill country in Sri Lanka, but has been in Britain for the last 20 years or more. And Sheikh Mohamed is the director of the Al Bayan Arabic Foundation in Leicester. But as I said, he was originally from Kandy, so he has an expertise on what's going on in Sri Lanka. And he has some very, very popular YouTube and Facebook social media channels in the Tamil language, also in English, that you can follow. I think that it's called Muslims of Sri Lanka. He'll tell us all about it. Anyway, here's what he had to say. Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh Mohamed Ismail from Leicester. Thank you very much for joining us today. So we've seen the scenes of chaos in Sri Lanka, which have made international headlines, the cost of living crisis, the protesters storming the presidential palace, the prime minister's residence, the president leaving the country now. These protests have been going on for like at least 100 days. Have Sri Lankan Muslims been part of this protest movement?
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Jazakallahu khairan for having me here. And it is very obvious, mashallah, well known this subject to the world because world media picked up, so we don't need to go further. And especially the Sri Lankan Muslims in Sri Lanka, and 9.7% of 22 million population. Always Sri Lankan Muslim contributed to the Sri Lankan community, especially economically and politically from the day one. 1,200 years, we can say, economically, Sri Lankan Muslim contributed a lot. Even irrigation, if you say the irrigation department in the 1,000 years, contributed by the Arabs who were selling and buying between all the continent. So even now, the Sri Lankan Muslim, always they are contributing in all areas, social, political, economical area. Especially if you have been to Colombo. Colombo is very busy bazaar, and most of the people are Muslims. And even now, when it's come to this protest, and Muslims to area, because a politician, they don't take part in the protest. This is, we need to say that. And also and the Jamiat Ulama. This is the community, I think, leaders, especially the ulamas. Even they did not participate. But public, as a civil organization, all of the civil organization, I can say, Muslim organization, they willingly participated. And this is from the day one.
Why can I just stop you there and ask you why this disconnect between Muslims on the ground and their political leaders, their political and religious leaders?
And especially we have long history. If I want to go the shortest history, and the 20th amendments happened during the Gotabaya Rajapaksha's period. So 20th amendments is giving total power to Rajapaksha. So they needed a 2/3 majority. That time, some politician, Muslim politician, around 7 politicians, and they voted for the Rajapaksha regime. So all the Muslim population, they are rejecting this political party, especially
The political leaders. What about the religious leaders? Why aren't they involved?
Unfortunately, religious leaders, I need to say, they did not stand up with the people. The reason, Rajapaksha is very cunning. They are already working with these leaders. They want to disconnect between the Muslim leaders and Muslims. So what they did, and I can't prove, but there are so many evidence whenever the time come to talk about a Muslim issue or the racial Islamophobia issue, even especially even you are part of the what is called the forced cremation issue when it's come, and our leaders, especially the ulamas and the leader of the Jamiat Ulama, he was taking part of the Rajapaksha regime and not the Islamic jurisprudence. Even he said, we are happy with taking the ashes of the cremated body, unfortunately.
Right.
So this is the
Sri
reason
Lankan political, so the religious and political leaders seem to be embedded in the establishment. They're not really representing Muslims on the ground. So what's the reaction, Sheikh, to the tumultuous events of the last 100 days, and especially the last few weeks? What's your family saying? What are Sri Lankan Muslims saying? How are they reacting as they watch these events unfold?
And if I want to say this way, there is no food for 70% of the population, especially they are going to bed without having the third meal. So 75% of the population mean like more than 16 million. So most of them, they keep away from this struggle. But fortunately, the courageous young youth, especially from the Western provincial, this Kalambu and Gampaha, around this area, they had, very, very, courageous decision. They need to go because they found this regime is the problem and not the old people. The regime is the problem. This was because if you are in the queue for days and days for gas and the days and days for fuel, and also no medicine, even I think very unfortunately the authorities say, don't fall into sick because if you fall into sick, you don't have the medicine. So this situation gave the people accepting, even though they can't participating from far places. But I come to know from far places, many Sinhalese community, they participated, even from Kandy, Kalutara, from Gaul, this area, Muslims also participated. Unfortunately, we didn't see majority or the enough numbers of people participated from northern and the eastern province.
Yeah.
So I think the climate was set up because when the people having suffering for long period, and normally people speak up even before they afraid to open the word Gotabaya Rajapaksha. But
tell me about how we got here, and tell me about the Rajapaksas. I think obviously we do have a reasonably sizable Sri Lankan Muslim community here in the UK. But when most British Muslims who aren't Sri Lankan, they think of the country, they think of perhaps the discrimination that Muslims have suffered, under this kind of Sinhalese Buddhist nationalist regime, which has been, I guess, ever since the end of the Civil War. The target was the Tamils, wasn't it, during the war? But once the Tamils were defeated, the focus kind of changed to the Muslims. Is that basically correct?
Correct. I want to go and a short history and also long history. Even now, what is the solution for Sri Lanka? One of the solution given, tackling internal threats. When you talk about tackling internal threats, preventing ethnic tension. If you look at the Sri Lankan history, as you mentioned, and the more than 30 years we had the war. Even before 1956, and the Sinhalese government, they gave the idea one language policy. What is that? Sinhalese language is the only national language. That was the divisive area. The ethnic tension started. Even if we are looking long time period, unfortunately, among the population, they created hate and also envy, and also I can say what is the hasad, the envy, and 1915, and the more than 4,000 properties demolished belongs to the Muslim, and also I think 25 people killed and four sisters raped, but it was forgotten now. Why this one happened? If you ask the question, why this one happened? Unfortunately, only that period is post-colonized Ceylon period. I think the British government was there at that time. They had the rules. Even any religious area, if you are going any process, don't make the noise. This is included Muslim mosque area. So from Kandy Central Province, we know well known the Parahara, one of the portions for Buddhist people. And the British colonial power, they said you can't go in this street because the Muslims mosque are there. And but Buddhist, they afraid because you are discriminating us and also you are favoring the Muslim. Only a small thing, this is end up the violence for many province. And this is, if you're thinking about 4,000 business properties, this is a huge numbers. So this hatred and envy is still there. This is created by time to time. The one of the things I can say politician, another things Buddhist extremist elements. We know well known, I think 2014, one of the, I think the Times magazine mentioned RSS of India and 969 of Myanmar and the Sri Lankan Bodubala Sena. All three collide each other to create the wider, what is called, non-Muslim state. So they were working together. So this element, unfortunately, I have to say, you ask the house of Rajapaksa, and the more than 7 peoples, they were ruling in the last 15 years. And during this period, more than 70% of the power of government they hold. And this area, this time, they allow the extremist Buddhist elements to speak up and create all the problem. I can say 2014 Alugame Dargah town incident happened, June period. Then after that, 2017 Gintota in Gol, they made the riots. Again, after that, 2018, it went to Ampara and Kandy. This is a big riots. And these all, they claim, Muslims and Buddhists are colliding, fighting each other, but totally this was created by, I think, Rajapaksa regime. When it's come to 2014, the Alugama, Beruwala, and Dargah town area, especially the 3 days, they were outside, and people said this is going to happen, but nobody listened. It's happened, like 2 days. They went, they destroyed many mosques and also many houses, and 4 people, as I remember, passed away due to this.
So basically, the constituency of the Rajapaksas was a right-wing nationalist, Buddhist extremist constituency, and they were allowing them to run riot, basically.
Yeah, they allowed, even soon after 2019 Easter bomb, only 3 weeks, Easter bombs happened 3 weeks. Nobody knows who is the culprit who did these things. And straight away they said ISIS. But this ISIS group, which was in Sri Lanka, was mentioned by Sri Lankan politicians, Sri Lankan scholars and civil organization 3 years prior to the incident. these people you need to take. But unfortunately, these people paid by defense ministry. This is proof. And I think Gotabaya Rajapaksa, he can't go to any Christian country. And as I came to know, and the Rome, Vatican, they mentioned, we are not giving any asylum to Gotabaya Rajapaksa because he has straight, the direct involvement in 2019 Easter bomb attacks.
So what's going to happen now, brother? Sri Lanka, is there any hope for the future with this cost of living crisis? Will the Rajapaksas being driven out of power, will it lead to something better, or is another, tin pot dictator going to take over?
Well, this is a good question, because normally we need to see the people came to the protest, like a last 100 days of the protest, and they did not come with only removing the Rajapaksa. And what they had, the 6 points. One is they need to remove the Rajapaksa, and the second Rajapaksa cabinet, and the third, they want to bring, very importantly, the new constitution, and also the people power. All the things did not happen. Only Rajapaksa is gone, but other things is still waiting. Another things, and the people, they don't care about what is happening for political change. They were wondering when I can get the fuel to move and to work, because especially more than 400,000 people lost the job. Even in Sri Lanka, we can't find exactly how many people lost the job. There is no proper data, because more than 70% of the population, the workforce, are the odd jobs they are doing. So this is the reason, and I'm thinking, we need especially the correct management, and also the correct rules and the policies regarding manufacturing and agriculture sector, especially agriculture sector. 2019, after Rajapaksa came, within one night he decided, and we don't use the what is called fertilizer. We're going to go for, what is the word? The fertilizer, which
organic
is
farming or something
organic.
like that.
Yes, unfortunately, yeah, organic. And this is never happened in the history of any world. Even I think in German, they have, I think, 10% of the organic farming. 90% is not organic. So this affected agriculture, and also many people came out. If we are talking about the protests, begin with the farmers. And the farmers came out because they couldn't see the outcome results. So they are suffering. They couldn't feed their children. So these people came out. Then only the protest movement came with a very good structure, with the courage. And also they are using new, methodology, how to convince these youngsters, especially before. Protesters only coming from the political parties, but this time we see the protesters not coming from the political party, but the people, and
from the grassroots. Yeah. What is there now? The Rajapaksas have gone. Is there any hope now? Is there a bit of hope for Sri Lankan Muslims that they can play a greater role in society as citizens of Sri Lanka, or will another kind of Buddhist nationalist extremist government regime take over?
I need to say positively, and during this 100 days of the protest, even more than 100 days now, during the protest, all these extremists and the Buddhist elements disappear. We don't know where are these people. This is showing the Rajapaksa regime. These are the people, they cultivated this small bunch of people. So they are the people, they don't have the supporters among the Buddhist majority, but they can create the problem, and also they can come out from what is called the justice. This is the reason I think Rajapaksa regime should go straight away, and also we can see this way. And from the protest land, and we can see the Buddhist, all the people that we are saying, and the Muslim, Tamils, and Buddhists, we are one. But because of this politician, they divide and they rule. Now we realize these are the people problem, not we. So as a population now, Buddhist, Muslim, Christian, and also Hindus, all are united together, and we can see, we can feel from the land in Sri Lanka and also in outside, especially in London. I think this Sunday we had 100 days march, and also mostly the Muslims participated, and this is united even around the world, and the people are united. I think
What
the
is so Sheikh, getting to the end now, wrapping up a couple more questions for you. So what is your message to Sri Lankan Muslims? I mean, obviously they're a minority, you know, maybe is a couple of million out of 22 million or something like that. So they're a minority in that country. So traditionally, I guess Sri Lankan Muslims, they've been on the sidelines a little bit. They're waiting to see which way the wind blows, reluctant to stick their head above the parapet too much, because as a minority, they're vulnerable. What do you advise them to do? Do you advise them to fully embrace this protest movement, this movement of change? Or do you think it's a bit safer to sit on the sidelines and wait and see what happens?
Well, as a Muslim, we know when speaking the truth in front of the tyrant ruler is an Islamic obligation. So the tyrant ruler, everyone knows the Rajapaksa and Rajapaksa regime, and also the extreme elements of Buddhist extremists. And if you keep silence, and this is not the religious duty. So my point for the Sri Lankan Muslim, first of all, you need to adhere to Islamic principle. Normally we say Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. We pray to Allah, we worship Allah. But if you don't adhere to Islamic principle, and we are falling into the failure in this world and the hereafter. This is one of the things. And the second thing, we need to actively participating and enjoying the good and forbidding the evil, not only this time and all the time. Because accounting the rulers, we don't take, like a big level as a prime minister or the president. Even in the local level, if the rulers and if the ruling parties or other people are engaging with anything is like a corruption especially, or the mismanagement, you need to open up, you need to speak up. If you don't speak up against this corruption, against this mismanagement, against these policies which is harming agriculture, which is harming the manufacturing, which is harming the economy, and also especially there are something happening against this what is called a pluralistic understanding of mutual respecting each other. If you see something going on, you need to speak up, and also this time you should engage with other community also.
And what about the international community? This is my last question, really. What about the international community? What role do they have to play? I mean, as far as I understand it, Sri Lanka tries to kind of balance to have a good relationship with the West, but also with China, with Russia, even India, all these world powers, rather than putting its eggs all in one basket. What do you think? What role has the international community got to play in getting Sri Lanka back on its feet? And what attitude should Sri Lanka have to the international community?
First of all, I need to come from the British Parliament. Unfortunately, last week I was watching something happening. Is after a long time they were discussing about Sri Lanka. But the answer coming, how can you help the Sri Lanka? And they're saying our partners, IMF, our partners, World Bank, they are dealing. If you see this one, already 16 times or more, Sri Lanka went to IMF, Sri Lanka went to World Bank. And when Sri Lanka get the independence in 1948, it was plus GDP. But now, more than 55 billion we are, need to pay. Even this year, 2022, now we have like a 6-month period. We need to pay, like a management fee, like a $7 billion, which we don't have at all. So one of the things I want to say to the wider community, especially the international community, if you are helping, don't put any string. And also help with intentionally, with the wholeheartedly. There are people they can help, and also especially I can say to the Muslim community all over the world, because your media is going all over the world, and we are supporting Palestine, we are supporting Rohingya, we are supporting even recently Afghanistan and also Bangladesh. Yes. And we need to support. Same time, if there is a call from any country, such as Sri Lanka, minority Muslims, if they are calling, and we have our responsibility to help the needy and poor people. One example I can give you, this Kurbani period, and the east part of Sri Lanka, they were waiting some donors come and buy the cow and
Yeah.
give the qurbani and distributing into the poor neighborhood. But unfortunately, this year they couldn't find the buyers. So this is the time I think the wider community we can realize we
So
can
yeah,
buy
we
this.
as British Muslims ourselves,
Yes.
we have a duty towards our brothers in Sri Lanka, because when we think of giving zakat and sadaqah, etc., we don't really think of Sri Lanka, do we? We think of Pakistan, Bangladesh, and Afghanistan, and all these, Gaza even. But Sri Lanka is not really on our agenda. But you feel they are worthy of our sadaqah and our zakat.
Yeah, it is worthy because 3 million people are in Sri Lanka now in the crisis, humanitarian crisis. So if you are looking at this stage, and September, they are expecting more worse, because if you are starting like what is happened, inflation more than 54% now. Last month, the May, June, this was 39, now 54. What is expecting in the another 2 months period? Inflation going very high. If I want to say this, like a crisis, and like a teachers, they don't have the wages this month. What the government doing? They are printing the money, they are
Yeah.
creating more inflation. So
Yeah.
this is the reason I think the wider community, international community, especially British community, always supporting the people. Especially I remember 2004, I worked with Islamic Relief for tsunami rescue effort, and this period went to Sri Lanka also some of the donation. And I think this continually we need to monitor, and we need to engage with Sri Lankan community what is happening in Sri Lanka, and also we need to support.
Okay.
And finally, if you are saying this is and luckily we are living in the world, and now people understand the concept of brotherhood and also concept of ummah. And before 30 years, 40 years, we don't remember, the brotherhood and the concept of ummah. But now everybody talking about, one ummah. And this word is a very powerful word. The reason I'm saying, and even in Sri Lanka, they feel when the Muslims are suffering, we get the donation funds from Middle East. But there are so many Buddhist countries, but they never talk, they never help. And this is one of the opportunity for Muslims to engage with the community, and also giving the beautiful Islamic teachings to the people. And also this time they are listening more than any other time. Before, all the media and what is called undermining a Muslim's effort, all the media focusing and bringing enmity between the Muslims and other communities, especially the Buddhist community.
Okay.
And we can go on and on these things, Islamophobia. And
Yeah.
also one more thing, Islamophobia in the world affected Sri Lanka too. Yeah, this is very important. And if we don't raise the voice for Islamophobia in this part of the world, even in the international wide, and what will happen? This will affect in the minority country. Example, and this here in the West, many countries, they, especially the France, they banned the niqab, and the Sri Lanka want to ban the niqab in 2019.
Yeah.
And even here, they want to ban Islamic school. And the Sri Lanka, they are putting the same restriction. And this is the reason I'm saying, even if you are living in the West, or if you are living in the Islamic country, Muslim countries, Islamophobia threat to Muslim, especially those people are minorities. And the Sri
Okay.
Lanka, ISIS, this is, we never know. 2014, I was there, and I heard some people are supporting ISIS because they don't have the knowledge. And because this is the reason, if we are talking about the knowledge, that we need to talk clearly what is the clear cut. If anybody from the Muslim community here or there and cross the red line, we need to come up, we need to say these people are wrong, and don't go with them. And very clearly Islam gave very beautiful way, and the Aqidah is very clear, and halal is very clear, haram is very clear. And I need to say, unfortunately, and last 20 years, and the Sri Lankan Muslim, and they went beyond what is their duty. They were silenced. So I think they need to uphold the Islamic Aqidah as a principle, and also the haram, halal as a criteria. If they not uphold these things, and they will fall into the trap of this nationalistic, extremist, Buddhist elements, and also this divide and rule policy, which is normally part and parcel of current day's democracy.
Okay, Sheikh Mohamed Ismail, Jazakallah khair for joining us today and educating us about the Muslims of Sri Lanka. And may Allah preserve them, and may Allah elevate their station and relieve their hardships, inshallah. Ameen. Okay.
Ameen, ya Rabbal Alameen. Jazakumullahu khairan for this opportunity. We will meet once again. Jazakumullah again. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Okay, brothers and sisters, that was Sheikh Mohamed Ismail from the Al Bayan Arabic Foundation in Leicester. Originally, the brothers originally from Kandy in Sri Lanka. So, brothers and sisters, we are committed to updating you as much as possible about the situation in Sri Lanka. Something that's very close to my heart. Also, we have a lot of Sri Lankan Muslims living in the UK and in all the countries that Five Pillars is read and Five Pillars is viewed. So we're very committed to this story and we will stick with it, inshallah. In the meantime, please like Five Pillars YouTube page. We need more subscribers on YouTube. Please follow us, especially on Telegram. We want to boost the number of our followers on Telegram, and also look out for us on our newsletter. We need to get our newsletter subscribers up as well. So I beseech you, brothers and sisters, please spread the word about our Telegram channel, about our newsletter, and also let's get more of you liking our YouTube page. That's it for the time being. Until next time, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.